the whole concept of the right of worship is now being challenged. And I think on Thursday, the Human Rights Council have to give a decision on it. Towards the end of the last month, a person called Solvan Momita asked for permission to go in front of the Turkish embassy in Sweden to burn a Quran. The police refused permission. The Supreme Administrative Court gave permission, claiming it's a right of expression. They applied, the police acted on the basis, it's on the right of worship. The Supreme Administrative Court said it is the right of expression. After the burning took place, there was a big outcry. Sweden got pressure from all the countries. We all had to deploy it. We all denounced it. Even Israel came out and said, you can't do this. This is a book concerning the God of Abraham, and you can't be involved in it. So, but what did Sweden do? Sweden, of course, said the burning of a holy text is an offensive and disrespectful act and a clear provocation. But then they said constitutionally protected right of freedom and speech, assembly, expression has to be safeguarded. Now, on one hand, we are saying it's the freedom of worship that has been violated, and they say no, this is the freedom of expression, it should be safeguarded. As reactions came from government, some of the Western governments said this is freedom of expression. It comes under while they deplored that, they brought it under freedom of expression. So as a result, Pakistan has now gone before the human right to Geneva and before the Human Rights Council and moved a motion that this is a violation of the international human rights law. That is being taken up on the 13th, the Thursday, in Geneva. Now, this is the question that is rising. We all treat this as a violation of the freedom of worship. But there is an attempt to bring this under freedom of expression. You can't bring everything under the freedom of expression. There has to be a limitation. But this seems to have been the Western line, because some of the international NGOs are saying if this resolution is passed, it will be a setback to the West. This is not a question of West or East, or North or South. It's a question of the right of worship, which we've had. It's not a question of burning the Quran. I, for one, am not an adherent of Prophet Muhammad, but I think there are a lot of valuable items in the Quran, which all of us can make use of. Similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Rig Vedas, in the Bible, we all find. Similarly, there are non-Buddhists who find things, useful passages in our own texts like the Dhammapada or the Tripitaka. So all of us regard this as an attack on religion. But for some of the Western countries, it's one of expression, because they are trying to expand the concept of expression to cover disorder. And as a result, they feel that the values, the Western value system has to be imposed. We are all for democracy. And I, for one, am not going to fight. I'm only speaking on this issue. I am not speaking on another issue about Sri Lanka, because I have accepted the fact that we have not fulfilled all our obligations according to the agreement signed between former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and the former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, and that we will fulfill it. So we have decided, whatever be our views, let's go ahead and fulfill our obligations. Now what we are asking the human rights in Geneva is, why are you silent? Why hasn't the Commissioner made a statement? Why are you going to wait for a vote? Now this is an important issue for all of us. Now, what is the value system we are going to follow? Our judicial power and our sovereignty comes from the people. But as a member of the UN, we have to follow the Declaration of Human Rights. But then, what is the value system we follow? We have so far followed whatever has been said by the Human Rights Council in Geneva. But now a question comes, it all depends on what position will they take. Your freedom of worship cannot be challenged. You can't give it another interpretation and cover the freedom of worship by the freedom of expression. The Human Rights Declaration was a result of President Roosevelt's 4 freedoms. And in the first freedom was freedom of speech and expression. The second freedom, as he said, freedom of every person to worship God in his own way. Then he accepted the fact that people must be able to worship whichever way he said worship God. When it came to the declaration, it became religion and belief. So it's very, very clear if you look at what President Roosevelt has said, that this is a violation of the freedom of worship. If you're going to say that this, if you're going to excuse this act on the basis of freedom of expression, then basically you have to rewrite history about Adolf Hitler, who burnt all the books and many of the Jewish cathedrals, and make him a Nobel Prize winner. So one of the two. So now we have come to this stage. Now what are we going to do? Let's look at what is going to take place on Thursday. If the Human Rights Council gives in to pressure and says this is a freedom of expression, then there will be a total break between most of us in the South and the Western value systems. On the other hand, if they say this is a violation of freedom of worship, then they must define the limits of freedom of expression. It's a question of freedom of expression and public harm. What is it that you have to follow? So this is the issue that is coming up there. But I have asked the government, I have asked the foreign minister that we should also take it up in the Commonwealth. Let's take it up in the Commonwealth. And then the Justice Minister and others can go and argue the case. I said to first speak to the Secretary General of Commonwealth. And I think Commonwealth then must take a leading role in human rights. You can't leave it to one section of the people where it gets politicized. It has to be the right of all the people. So this is a big test. Are the Human Rights Council going to accept the freedom of worship and put limitations on the freedom of expression? Are they not going to do it? Nevertheless, this is the beginning, I think, of us trying to get our own values, the values of the global South, into the Human Rights Council where it has to be respected. This was a very important issue, and since I've instructed the Foreign Ministry to go ahead and first to oppose it in Geneva, any attempt by the West to change it, to support the Pakistani resolution, and we as a country to take the first step in with the Commonwealth, because as a country we all know the Buddha said treat every religious leader with respect, and that's all that we are asking for. So let's come to the forefront on this issue within the Commonwealth, and I thought being among the Kalukot Karyas, I'll first tell them what we are going to do. So thank you very much.